Nathan Reed walked into that coffee shop expecting nothing. Maybe an hour of polite conversation, maybe an excuse to leave early. What he got instead was a woman who looked at him like he had already disappointed her before he even sat down. Victoria Hale didn't want to be there. She certainly didn't want him there. And she made that painfully clear within the first 30 seconds. But something stopped Nathan from walking away. Maybe it was the armor she wore like a second skin. Maybe it was recognizing his own brokenness reflected back at him. Either way, he stayed. If you want to see where this story goes, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this reaches. Nathan Reed sat in his truck outside the coffee shop for 11 minutes before he finally turned off the engine. His hands were still on the steering wheel. The keys dangled from the ignition. Through the windshield, he could see the warm glow of the interior, the movement of people inside, the ordinary rhythm of a Saturday afternoon in Denver. He didn't want to be here. His younger sister Emma had set this up 3 weeks ago, ambushing him during one of her unannounced visits while Khloe was at a friend's house. She'd cornered him in his own kitchen, arms crossed, wearing that expression that meant she wasn't leaving until she got what she came for. "You're not living, Nathan. You're just existing. I'm raising my daughter." "You're hiding behind your daughter. There's a difference." The argument had lasted an hour. Emma was relentless when she wanted to be, and she'd wanted this badly. A blind date. Just one. Just to prove he could still function like a normal human being instead of the grief-hollowed ghost he'd become. Nathan had finally agreed just to make her stop talking. Now, sitting outside the coffee shop, he regretted it completely. 5 years. It had been 5 years since Sarah died. 5 years since cancer had ripped her away from him in slow, agonizing stages that left him gutted and empty. 5 years since he'd become a single father to a 3-year-old who didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home. He'd survived by building walls, thick ones. Walls made of routine and responsibility and the single-minded focus of keeping Khloe safe and fed and loved. Walls that kept everything else out. Dating wasn't part of the routine. Dating meant opening doors he'd sealed shut. Dating meant pretending he was someone he wasn't anymore. Nathan exhaled slowly and opened the truck door before he could talk himself out of it. The September air was cool, carrying the smell of roasting coffee and fresh bread from the bakery next door. He locked the truck and walked toward the entrance, his heartbeat uncomfortably loud in his ears. Inside, the coffee shop was exactly what he'd expected. Exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, indie music playing just loud enough to cover conversations without drowning them out. A handful of people scattered throughout, students with laptops, a couple sharing a pastry, an older man reading a newspaper, and at a corner table near the window, a woman in a wheelchair. Nathan's breath caught. He'd known, of course. Emma had told him. Victoria Hale, tech CEO, brilliant, successful, and yes, in a wheelchair after an accident years ago. Emma had been careful to mention it, as if preparing him, as if it might be a problem. It wasn't a problem. But seeing her now, Nathan understood immediately that this was going to be harder than he'd imagined. Because Victoria Hale was stunning. Not in the polished, untouchable way of someone on a magazine cover, in the sharp, lived-in way of someone who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side carrying all the scars. She had dark hair pulled back into a ponytail, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes that tracked his approach with the kind of cold assessment usually reserved for business negotiations. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just watched him walk toward her, and Nathan felt like he was being measured and found wanting before he'd even opened his mouth. "Nathan?" Her voice was level, controlled. "Yeah. Victoria?" "Obviously." She gestured vaguely at herself, at the wheelchair, at the empty seat across from her. "You're late." Nathan glanced at his watch. "By 3 minutes. Still late." He pulled out the chair and sat down, feeling the weight of her stare. Up close, she was even more striking. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth set in a thin line, and those eyes, gray-green and completely unreadable. "Sorry," he said. "I was sitting in my truck trying to convince myself to come inside." That got a reaction. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Wow, honesty. That's new. Should I have lied? Most people do." Victoria leaned back in her wheelchair, crossing her arms. "Let me guess. Your sister set this up. You didn't want to come. You're doing this because she wouldn't shut up about it. And now you're sitting here trying to figure out how long you have to stay before it's socially acceptable to leave." Nathan blinked. That's disturbingly accurate. I'm good at reading people. Her expression didn't soften, and I'm good at knowing when someone's already decided this was a mistake. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Victoria's voice was sharp now, edged with something that sounded like anger but felt more like pain. Look, let's just skip the part where we both pretend this is going somewhere. You seem like a decent guy. You showed up, which is more than most, but we both know how this ends. Nathan frowned. Do we? You'll stay for 15 minutes, maybe 20 if you're really polite. You'll make small talk, laugh at the right moments, and then you'll check your phone like you just got an urgent text. You'll apologize. Something about your daughter, probably. And then you'll leave, and I'll never hear from you again. The bitterness in her voice was so raw, it made Nathan's chest tighten. And her, "Is that what usually happens?" he asked quietly. "That's what always happens." Victoria's hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. "So let's just save each other the time. You can leave now. No hard feelings. I won't tell your sister." For a long moment, Nathan just looked at her. He saw the armor she was wearing, the walls she'd built, the expectation of disappointment that radiated from her like heat. He recognized all of it because he'd been doing the same thing for 5 years. "I'm not leaving," he said. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Why not?" "Because I drove 11 minutes to get here, sat in my truck for another 11 minutes working up the nerve to come inside, and I don't quit things that easily." You should. Probably. Nathan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "But I'm here now, so how about we just have coffee? No expectations, no script. Just two people who apparently both got bullied into this by people who care about them." Victoria stared at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. "You're serious. Dead serious. You're not going to—" She stopped herself, jaw tightening. "Fine. Whatever. But don't say I didn't warn you." Nathan ordered 2 coffees from a passing barista, then turned back to Victoria. The silence stretched between them, awkward and heavy. He tried to think of something to say that wouldn't sound rehearsed or fake, but every opening line he'd half prepared in the truck felt stupid now. "So," Victoria said finally, her tone flat, "your sister, what did she tell you about me?" "That you're brilliant. That you run a tech company that builds accessibility software. That you changed the industry." Nathan paused. "And that you don't date much." Understatement of the century. Victoria's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Let me guess. She also told you about the accident. She mentioned it. How considerate." Victoria's fingers drummed against the armrest. "Did she also mention that I'm a billionaire? Because that usually comes up. Right before the part where she assures you I'm not a spoiled brat, despite having more money than most small countries." Nathan shook his head. "She didn't mention the billionaire part. Victoria blinked. "Really? Really? Huh." For the first time, her expression shifted, just slightly, like a crack forming in a wall. "That's actually surprising." "Why?" "Because it's usually the first thing people know about me. Victoria Hale, tech CEO, billionaire, inspiration porn, blah, blah, blah." She gestured dismissively. The woman who turned tragedy into triumph. The brave disability advocate who didn't let a little thing like a severed spine stop her from conquering the world. The bitterness in her voice was so thick Nathan could practically taste it. "Sounds like you've heard that speech before," he said quietly. "Only about 1,000 times." Victoria looked out the window, her jaw tight. People love the story. Girl loses everything in a car accident. Girl reinvents herself. Girl builds an empire. It's very inspiring, very marketable. But not very accurate. Okay. "Oh, it's accurate." Victoria turned back to him, and for just a second he saw something raw and unguarded in her eyes. "It's just not the whole story. People don't want to hear about the parts that aren't inspirational. The surgeries, the rehab, the nightmares. The fiancé who left because he couldn't handle it." Nathan's chest tightened. "He left?" 2 weeks before the wedding. Victoria's voice was flat now, drained of emotion. "Couldn't deal with the reality of what my life had become. Can't blame him, really. It's a lot to handle." "That's..." Nathan stopped, shaking his head. That's horrible. That's reality. Victoria shrugged, but the gesture was stiff, defensive. People think they can handle it until they can't, and then they leave. It's fine. I'm used to it. The barista appeared with their coffees, breaking the moment. Nathan thanked her, then wrapped his hands around the cup, trying to figure out what to say next. Victoria beat him to it. So what about you? She leaned back, studying him. What's your tragic backstory? Everyone's got one. Nathan hesitated. My wife died 5 years ago. Cancer. Victoria's expression shifted, not to pity, but to recognition. How old was your daughter? 3. That's rough. Yeah, see. Do you miss her? Your wife. The question was so direct it caught Nathan off guard. Most people danced around it, offering careful condolences and awkward silences. Victoria just asked. Every day? Nathan said quietly. But it's different now. The grief isn't as sharp. It's more like background noise. Always there, but I've learned to live with it. Have you? Victoria tilted her head. Or are you just good at pretending? Nathan's throat tightened. What makes you think I'm pretending? Because I recognize the look. Victoria's gaze was steady, unflinching. You're walking through life like you're underwater, going through the motions, surviving instead of living. Am I wrong? Nathan opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. She wasn't wrong. Your sister was right to set this up, Victoria said. You need to start living again. So do you. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You heard me. Nathan met her stare without flinching. You're doing the same thing I am, hiding behind walls, pushing people away before they can disappoint you, surviving instead of living. For a long moment, Victoria just stared at him. Then, impossibly, she laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was bitter and sharp and tinged with something that sounded like desperation. But it was real. Okay, she said finally. Fair point. Nathan felt something shift between them. Not an opening, exactly. More like a mutual acknowledgement of damage. Two broken people recognizing each other across a crowded room. So what now? Victoria asked. I don't know. Nathan took a sip of his coffee. It was too hot and burned his tongue, but he didn't care. Maybe we just keep talking? About what? Anything. Nothing. I don't know. Nathan shrugged. I haven't done this in a while. Neither have I. Then we'll figure it out together. Victoria studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she picked up her coffee cup and took a slow, deliberate sip. You're weird, she said finally. Thanks. I didn't say it was a bad thing. They talked for another hour. It wasn't smooth. There were awkward silences and conversational dead ends and moments where Nathan wasn't sure Victoria was about to shut down completely. But she didn't, and neither did he. Victoria told him about her company, how she'd built it from nothing after the accident, driven by frustration with the accessibility tools that existed at the time. She talked about the early days, the failed prototypes, the investors who'd dismissed her because they couldn't see past the wheelchair. I had to fight for every dollar, she said. Every meeting, every pitch. People kept telling me I was inspirational, but they wouldn't give me their money. Inspiration doesn't pay the bills. How'd you change their minds? I stopped asking. Victoria's smile was sharp. I built the product anyway, proved it worked. Then they came to me. Nathan found himself leaning forward, genuinely interested. What made you so sure it would work? Because I needed it. Victoria's voice was quieter now. I was so angry after the accident. At the world, at my body, at everyone who looked at me like I was broken. I wanted to build something that would prove I wasn't, something that would change the way people like me moved through the world. Did it work? The company did. The anger didn't go away. Victoria looked down at her coffee. Turns out you can't engineer your way out of trauma. Who knew? Me. Nathan smiled faintly. If you figure out how, let me know. You too. The conversation shifted. Nathan talked about Khloe, how she'd started 3rd grade last month, how she was obsessed with dinosaurs and hated wearing matching socks. How she asked questions about her mother that he still didn't know how to answer. She doesn't remember her, Nathan said quietly. Not really. She was too young. Sometimes I think that's easier. Sometimes I think it's worse. Victoria's expression softened. What do you tell her? The truth. That her mom loved her. That she's gone. That it's okay to be sad about it. Nathan rubbed his face. I don't know if that's the right answer, but it's the only one I have. Sounds like you're doing okay. I'm surviving. That counts for something. Ugh. They talked about smaller things after that. Books they'd read. Shows they'd watched. The absurdity of Denver traffic. Victoria had a dry, cutting sense of humor that caught Nathan off guard. She made him laugh. Actually laugh, not the polite chuckle he'd perfected over the last 5 years. I'm serious, Victoria said, gesturing with her coffee cup. The guy literally stood in front of my wheelchair and asked if I needed help crossing the street. We were inside a building. Ya almost satam. Nathan laughed so hard he almost choked. What did you do? I told him I'd already crossed 3 streets to get there and managed not to die. Victoria's grin was wicked. He looked like I'd punched him. You're terrible. I'm honest, there's a difference. Nathan wiped his eyes, still grinning. I like you. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Victoria's smile faded. She looked at him carefully, like she was trying to figure out if he was joking. You don't know me, she said finally. Not yet. Nathan, I'm not saying I want to marry you. Nathan held up his hands. I'm just saying I like talking to you. You're funny and smart and you don't bullshit. That's rare. Victoria's jaw tightened. People always say that, in the beginning. And then what? And then they realize what they signed up for. Victoria's voice was sharp again, defensive. The wheelchair isn't just a prop. It's my life. It's doctor's appointments and accessibility issues and strangers staring and people talking to you like you're 5 years old. It's exhausting. And eventually, people get tired of it. Nathan didn't look away. Did you get tired of it? Victoria blinked. What? You said people get tired. Did you? Oh, that's not... Victoria stopped, her hands gripping the armrests again. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Nathan leaned forward. You've been dealing with this for years. You built a company. You kept going. You didn't give up. So why do you assume everyone else will? Victoria's eyes were suddenly bright. Because they always do. Not always. Nathan, I'm not them. Nathan's voice was quiet but firm. I don't know what happens next. Maybe this goes nowhere. Maybe we never talk again after today. But I'm not leaving because you're in a wheelchair. I'm not leaving because you're angry or broken or any of the other things you think are deal breakers. Victoria's hands were shaking now. Then why would you leave? I don't know. Maybe I won't. The silence that followed was so thick, Nathan could hear his own heartbeat. Victoria looked away first, blinking hard. You don't know what you're saying. Maybe not. Nathan finished his coffee, even though it had gone cold. But I meant it. Victoria didn't respond. She just stared out the window, her jaw tight, her hands still gripping the armrest like she was holding herself together by force. Nathan waited. Finally, Victoria turned back to him. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but dry. I have to go, she said quietly. Nathan's chest tightened. Okay, say. I'm not... Victoria stopped, shaking her head. I'm not running away. I just need to think. I get it. Victoria studied him for a long moment, then pulled a business card from her bag and slid it across the table. That's my number. If you still want to talk after you've had time to realize how complicated this would be, call me. Nathan picked up the card. And if I call tonight, then you're an idiot. Wouldn't be the first time. Victoria's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. You're really weird. You mentioned that. She turned her wheelchair toward the door, then paused. Nathan? Yeah? Thank you. For staying. Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. Anytime. Victoria left without looking back. Nathan sat at the table for another 10 minutes, staring at the business card in his hand. The coffee shop continued around him, conversations and laughter and the hiss of the espresso machine. Normal life. Carrying on like nothing had changed. But something had changed. Nathan had walked into this coffee shop expecting nothing. Maybe an hour of awkward small talk. Maybe a polite escape. Instead, he'd met someone who looked at him and saw exactly what he'd been hiding. Someone who was just as broken as he was. Someone who made him feel something other than numb for the first time in 5 years. Nathan pulled out his phone and stared at Victoria's number for a long moment. Then he sent a text. "I'm calling tonight anyway." 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed. "You really are an idiot," Nathan smiled. "Yeah, I know." He drove home feeling lighter than he had in years. Khloe was waiting at the front door when he pulled into the driveway, bouncing on her toes with the kind of manic energy only 8-year-olds possessed. Emma stood behind her, arms crossed, wearing an expression that said she'd been interrogating his daughter for the last hour. "Daddy!" Khloe launched herself at him the second he opened the truck door. "How was your date? Did you kiss her? Are you getting married?" Nathan laughed despite himself. "Whoa, slow down. Opposite." "Emma said you went on a date with a lady. Is she nice? Does she like dinosaurs?" "I don't know if she likes dinosaurs." Nathan ruffled Khloe's hair. "We didn't talk about it." Emma appeared beside them, eyes sharp. "So, how'd it go?" Nathan looked at his sister. She'd been pushing for this for months, years really. Ever since Sarah died, Emma had been trying to pull him back into the world, convinced he was drowning in grief and routine. She wasn't wrong. It went, "Okay," Nathan said finally. Emma's eyes narrowed. "Okay? That's it? What do you want me to say?" "I want details. Did you like her? Did she like you? Are you going to see her again?" Nathan hesitated. "Maybe." Emma's face lit up. "That's not a no. It's not a yes either. But it's not a no." Emma grinned. "That's progress." Khloe tugged on Nathan's sleeve. "Daddy, can I meet her? Please?" "We'll see, kiddo." "That means yes." "That means maybe." Khloe groaned dramatically. "You always say maybe when you mean no." "Not always. Yes, always." Nathan scooped her up, making her squeal. "All right, troublemaker. Let's get you inside before you interrogate me to death." Emma followed them into the house, still grinning. "You texted her, didn't you?" Nathan didn't answer. "You totally did. I can see it on your face." "I don't know what you're talking about. You're a terrible liar." Emma punched his shoulder lightly. "I'm proud of you. For what? Surviving a coffee date?" "For trying." Emma's voice was softer now. "That's more than you've done in 5 years." Nathan didn't have an answer for that. That night, after Khloe was asleep and the house was quiet, Nathan sat on the back porch with his phone in his hand. The business card was still in his wallet, but he'd already memorized the number. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he hit call. Victoria answered on the third ring. "You actually called." "I told you I would." "I thought you'd come to your senses." "Not yet." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "Maybe tomorrow." Victoria laughed. That same sharp, bitter sound from the coffee shop. But underneath it, Nathan heard something else. Relief, maybe. Or hope. "You're persistent," she said. "Is that a bad thing?" "I don't know yet." They talked for 2 hours. It was easier on the phone. No eye contact. No pressure. Just two voices in the dark, trading stories and silences, and the kind of honesty that only comes when you have nothing left to lose. Victoria told him about the accident. Not the sanitized version she gave in interviews, but the real one. The car wreck that had come out of nowhere on a rainy night. The surgery that had lasted 14 hours. The moment she woke up and realized she'd never walk again. "I thought my life was over," she said quietly. "For months I just existed. I went through the motions, rehab, therapy, all of it. But I wasn't really there. I was just waiting for it to be over." "What changed?" Nathan asked. "I got angry." Victoria's voice hardened. "I got so angry I couldn't sit still anymore. I was angry at the drunk driver who hit me, angry at my fiancé for leaving, angry at everyone who looked at me like I was something broken that needed to be fixed. So I decided to build something instead. Your company. My company." Victoria exhaled slowly. "It gave me something to focus on besides the anger. Something that felt like moving forward instead of just surviving." Nathan understood that better than she knew. What about you? Victoria asked. What kept you going after your wife died? Khloe. The answer came instantly. I couldn't fall apart because she needed me, so I just kept going, one day at a time. That sounds exhausting. It was. Nathan stared up at the stars. Still is, sometimes. Do you regret it? Staying? The question caught Nathan off guard. Staying where? Here, alive. Present. Victoria's voice was careful now. Some days I wonder if it would have been easier to just check out. Emotionally, I mean. Stop trying so hard. Nathan's throat tightened. Yeah, I've thought about that. And? And I didn't. Nathan closed his eyes. Because Khloe deserved better than a ghost for a father. She deserved someone who was actually there. So you forced yourself to be there. Every single day. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. That's brave. It doesn't feel brave, it just feels necessary. Same thing, sometimes. They talked until Nathan's phone battery hit 10% about nothing and everything. Books and movies, and the bizarre vulnerability of talking to a stranger in the dark. Finally, Victoria yawned. I should let you go. Probably. Nathan? Yeah? I'm glad you called. And Nathan smiled. Me too. Don't make me regret saying that. I'll try not to. Good night, Nathan. Good night, Victoria. The line went dead. Nathan sat on the porch for another 20 minutes, staring at his phone, feeling something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope. The phone calls became a routine neither of them had planned. Nathan would put Khloe to bed at 8:30, do the dishes, check his email, and then find himself on the back porch with his phone in his hand. Sometimes he'd wait until 9. Sometimes he'd call at 8:45 because waiting felt ridiculous. Victoria always answered. They never talked about what they were doing or why. They just talked. About work, about Khloe's latest dinosaur obsession, about the absurdity of Victoria's latest board meeting where 3 men had spent 40 minutes explaining accessibility features to her, the woman who'd invented half of them. I just sat there, Victoria said one night, her voice dripping with sarcasm, nodding, smiling, waiting for them to finish mansplaining my own product to me. Nathan laughed. What did you do? I thanked them for their valuable input. Then I had my assistant send them a link to the patent filing, with my name on it, in bold. You're evil. I'm efficient. There's a difference. 3 weeks into whatever this was, Emma showed up at Nathan's house unannounced again. She had a habit of doing that, appearing in his kitchen like she still lived there, raiding his fridge, interrogating him about his life. So, she said, leaning against the counter with the apple in her hand, you and Victoria. Nathan didn't look up from the stove. He was making spaghetti, Khloe's favorite. What about it? You talk to her every night. So? So that's not nothing, Nathan. I didn't say it was nothing. Emma took a bite of the apple, studying him. You like her? Yeah, I do. Have you seen her again? Like, in person? Nathan flipped the burner off. Not yet. Why not? Because it's complicated. Everything's complicated. Emma tossed the apple core in the trash. That's not a reason. She's busy. I'm busy. We're figuring it out. You're stalling. Nathan finally turned to face his sister. What do you want me to say, Em? That I'm terrified? That I haven't done this in 5 years and I have no idea what I'm doing? That every time I think about asking her to meet up again, I panic because what if I screw it up? Emma's expression softened. Then you screw it up. So what? What, son. So what? Nathan laughed, but there was no humor in it. So I hurt someone. So I prove I'm not ready for this. So you try anyway. Emma crossed her arms. Nathan, you've been hiding for 5 years. Sarah wouldn't have wanted that. Nathan's jaw tightened. Don't. Don't what? Tell you the truth? Emma's voice was gentle but firm. She loved you. She would have wanted you to be happy. To live, not just survive. I am living. No, you're going through the motions. There's a difference. Emma moved closer. Look, I'm not saying you have to marry this woman. I'm just saying, don't let fear keep you from trying. Nathan didn't answer. That night, when Victoria called at 9:15, 15 minutes later than usual, Nathan answered on the first ring. Hey, he said. Hey. Victoria's voice sounded tired. Sorry I'm late. Conference call ran long. It's fine. You sure? You sound weird. Nathan hesitated. Can I ask you something? Depends on the question. Do you want to meet up again? Silence. Nathan's stomach dropped. Victoria? I'm here. Her voice was careful now. Why are you asking? Because we've been talking for 3 weeks, and I'd like to see you in person, if that's okay. Nathan, if you don't want to, that's fine. It's not that I don't want to. Victoria exhaled slowly. It's just easier like this. On the phone. No expectations. No pressure. I'm not trying to pressure you. I know. Victoria was quiet for a moment. What did you have in mind? Nathan hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. Coffee again? Dinner? Khloe's been asking about you. She has? Every single day. She wants to know if you like dinosaurs. Deepening. Victoria laughed. That real, unguarded laugh Nathan had only heard a handful of times. Tell her I'm more of a paleontology skeptic. That'll crush her. Fine. Tell her I think dinosaurs are great, especially the ones with tiny arms. Nathan smiled. So is that a yes? Another pause. Longer this time. Saturday, Victoria said finally. There's a park near my place. It's accessible. Quiet. We could, I don't know, walk, talk, whatever. Okay. Bring Khloe if you want. Nathan's chest tightened. You sure? No? Victoria's voice was honest. But I'm doing it anyway. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn weather that made Denver feel almost perfect. Nathan dressed Khloe in her favorite dinosaur hoodie, the green one with the T-Rex on the back, and tried not to think about how nervous he was. Khloe, on the other hand, was vibrating with excitement. Is she nice, Daddy? Does she really know about computers? Can she do magic? She doesn't do magic, kiddo. But she's really smart, right? Aunt Emma said she's like super-duper smart. She is. Smarter than you? Nathan laughed. Way smarter than me. They arrived at this park 15 minutes early. Nathan spotted Victoria near the entrance, sitting in her wheelchair under a tree, wearing sunglasses and a leather jacket that made her look like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. Khloe grabbed Nathan's hand. Is that her? Yeah. She looks like a superhero, okay. Nathan smiled. She kind of is. Victoria spotted them and waved. Khloe immediately let go of Nathan's hand and sprinted toward her, all caution forgotten. Hi. Khloe skidded to a stop in front of Victoria's wheelchair, breathing hard. I'm Khloe. Do you like dinosaurs? Victoria blinked, clearly caught off guard. Then she smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Hi, Khloe. I think dinosaurs are pretty cool. Which one's your favorite? I don't know. Which one's yours? Velociraptor, because they hunt in packs and they're super smart and they have big claws. Khloe held up her hands like claws. But Daddy says they were actually really small, like turkey-sized. Is that true? Victoria glanced at Nathan, who was catching up. Your dad's right. Most velociraptors were about 3 feet tall. Khloe's face fell. That's not scary at all. Still had the claws, though. I guess. Khloe squinted at Victoria. Can you do a wheelie? Khloe. Nathan's voice was sharp. That's not... It's fine. Victoria's smile widened. Watch this. She shifted her weight, gripped the wheels, and popped the front casters off the ground. Khloe's eyes went huge. Whoa! Victoria lowered back down. Took me 6 months to learn that. That's so cool. Khloe turned to Nathan. Daddy, did you see? I saw. Can you do a wheelie? No, kiddo. Khloe looked back at Victoria with pure admiration. You're way cooler than Daddy. Victoria laughed. I like her. She grows on you. Nathan shoved his hands in his pockets. Sorry, she's enthusiastic. Don't apologize, it's refreshing. Victoria looked at Khloe. You want to walk with us? Or run, probably, knowing kids. Can I climb on stuff? If your dad says it's okay. Khloe turned to Nathan with pleading eyes. Nathan sighed. Stay where I can see you. Yay! Khloe took off toward the playground, already spotting a climbing structure. Nathan and Victoria started along the path. It was paved and smooth, easy for the wheelchair. Trees lined both sides, their leaves turning gold and red in the autumn sun. She's great, Victoria said after a moment. She's a handful. She's 8. That's the job description. Victoria glanced at him. You're good with her. I try. No, I mean it. You don't hover. You let her be a kid. Victoria's voice was quieter now. That's rarer than you think. Nathan wasn't sure how to respond to that. They walked in silence for a while, following the curve of the path. Khloe was visible ahead, climbing and jumping and narrating some elaborate story to herself involving dinosaurs and aliens. So, Victoria said eventually, this is weird, right? Nathan laughed. Yeah, a little. Good. I thought it was just me. Definitely not just you. Victoria slowed her wheelchair, then stopped completely. Nathan stopped too, turning to face her. I'm not good at this, Victoria said. The whole, dating thing, or whatever this is. I don't know the rules. I don't think there are rules. There are always rules. I just don't know what they are. Victoria looked down at her hands. I keep waiting for you to realize this is too much work. Victoria, I'm serious. Her voice was sharper now. This isn't a normal relationship. It's doctor appointments and accessible restaurants and people staring. It's exhausting, Nathan. And I get it if that's not what you signed up for. Nathan crouched down so he was eye level with her. Can I tell you something? Victoria's jaw tightened. What? I didn't sign up for anything. I just wanted to get to know you. Nathan met her eyes. And yeah, this is different. But different doesn't mean bad. It just means I have to pay attention. And honestly, I should have been doing that anyway. Victoria stared at him. You're really not bothered by this? By what? The wheelchair? Nathan shook his head. Victoria, I'm bothered by a lot of things. Traffic. My sister's unsolicited advice. The fact that Khloe refuses to wear matching socks. But you being in a wheelchair? That's just part of who you are. It's not a problem I need to solve. Victoria's eyes were bright now, but she blinked hard. Most people don't see it that way. Then most people are idiots. A laugh burst out of her, surprised and genuine. You can't just say that. Why not? It's true. Victoria wiped her eyes, shaking her head. You're so weird. You keep saying that like it's an insult. It's not. Victoria's voice was softer now. It's just, I'm not used to it. Khloe came running back, breathless and grinning. Daddy, there's a bridge. Can we go see it? Nathan stood up. Sure, kiddo. Lead the way. They followed Khloe to a small wooden bridge that arced over a man-made stream. It was just wide enough for the wheelchair, and Victoria rolled across it slowly, looking down at the water below. This is nice, she said quietly. Yeah. Nathan leaned on the railing. It is. Khloe had already moved on, chasing a butterfly through the grass. Nathan and Victoria stood on the bridge, watching her, the silence between them comfortable now. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Sure. What made you say yes? To the blind date, I mean. You didn't want to go, so why did you? Nathan thought about it. Honestly, I think I was tired of being numb. I didn't realize it until I was sitting across from you, but I'd stopped feeling anything for so long. Grief, joy, anger, all of it. I was just going through the motions. He paused. And then you looked at me like you could see right through all the bullshit, and I felt something. Victoria turned to him. What did you feel? Terrified. Nathan smiled. And alive. Victoria's expression was unreadable. I felt that too. Yeah? Yeah. She looked away. I spent years building walls, convincing myself I didn't need anyone, that I was fine alone. And then you walked into that coffee shop and stayed when you should have left, and I couldn't figure out why. Maybe I'm just stubborn. You You are. Victoria's mouth twitched. But I think it's more than that. Nathan wanted to ask what she meant, but Khloe came racing back, covered in grass stains and breathing hard. Daddy, I'm hungry. Nathan checked his watch. It was almost noon. All right, let's get some lunch. They ended up at a small diner near the park. It was one of those local places with mismatched furniture and a menu that hadn't changed in 30 years. The hostess led them to a booth in the back, and Khloe immediately started coloring on the kids' menu with the crayons provided. Victoria ordered a burger. Nathan got a sandwich. Khloe asked for pancakes even though it was lunchtime, and Nathan was too tired to argue. So, Victoria said, watching Khloe draw what appeared to be a T-Rex eating a spaceship. What's the verdict? Am I weird enough for the Reed family? Khloe looked up. You're not weird. You're awesome. Victoria's smile was soft. Thanks, kid. Can you come over to our house? I want to show you my dinosaur collection. Nathan jumped in. Khloe, Victoria's busy. Actually, Victoria said, glancing at Nathan, I'd love to see it, if that's okay. Nathan blinked. You sure? Yeah, why not? Khloe bounced in her seat. Yes, this is the best day ever. After lunch, they drove back to Nathan's house. It was a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood with a small front yard and a driveway that needed repaving. Nathan felt suddenly self-conscious as he unlocked the front door, hyper-aware of the clutter and the worn furniture and the fact that he hadn't vacuumed in 3 days. Victoria didn't seem to notice. She rolled inside, looking around with genuine curiosity. Khloe grabbed her hand and dragged her toward the stairs, then stopped abruptly. Oh. Khloe's face fell. Your wheelchair can't go upstairs. That's okay. Victoria's voice was gentle. Why don't you bring your dinosaurs down here? All of them? As many as you want. Khloe sprinted upstairs. Nathan heard her bedroom door slam open, followed by the sound of things being moved around. Victoria looked at Nathan. Your house is nice. It's a mess. It's lived in. There's a difference. Victoria moved into the living room, looking at the photos on the mantel. Most of them were of Khloe at various ages. A few were of Sarah, before the cancer, when she was still healthy. Victoria stopped at one photo in particular, Sarah and Nathan on their wedding day, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. She was beautiful, Victoria said quietly. Nathan's throat tightened. Yeah, she was. Do you still think about her? Every day, I mean. Not every day anymore, but most days. Nathan moved to stand beside her. It's different now. The memories don't hurt as much. They're just there. Victoria nodded slowly. My fiancé used to tell me I was the most capable person he knew. After the accident, he told me he couldn't handle watching me struggle. She paused. I think about that a lot. How quickly someone can go from loving you to leaving you. He didn't deserve you. Oh, maybe. Or maybe I was too much work. Victoria's voice was flat. Hard to say. It's not hard to say. Nathan turned to face her. He was a coward, and you're better off without him. Victoria looked at him for a long moment. You really believe that? Yeah, I do, Khloe thundered down the stairs with an armful of plastic dinosaurs. She dumped them on the coffee table, then started arranging them by size while explaining their names and eating habits to Victoria, who listened with the kind of focused attention most adults couldn't fake. Nathan watched them from the kitchen doorway. Khloe was completely at ease, chattering away without any of the awkwardness Nathan had worried about. And Victoria, guarded, sharp-edged Victoria, was smiling like she meant it. An hour later, after Khloe had exhausted her dinosaur knowledge and moved on to showing Victoria her coloring books, Nathan walked Victoria to her car. Thanks for coming, he said. Thanks for inviting me. Victoria looked back at the house. Khloe's great. You're doing a good job with her. I'm doing my best. That's all anyone can do. Victoria hesitated, then reached out and touched his hand. Nathan? Yeah? I'm glad we're doing this. Whatever this is. Nathan's chest felt tight. Me too. But I need you to know something. Victoria's voice was serious now. I'm going to screw this up. I'm going to push you away or say the wrong thing or panic when things get real. It's what I do. Okay. That's it? Just okay? Nathan shrugged. Victoria, I'm going to screw up too. I've been emotionally shut down for 5 years. I have no idea how to do this. We're both going to mess up. That's part of it. Victoria studied him. You're really not scared? I'm terrified. Nathan smiled. But I'm doing it anyway. Why? Because you're worth it. Victoria's eyes went bright. She looked away quickly, blinking hard. You can't just say stuff like that. Why not? Because it makes me want to believe you. Good. Nathan squeezed her hand. You should. Victoria didn't respond. She just sat there, holding his hand, looking like she was fighting some internal battle Nathan couldn't see. Finally, she let go. I should get going, she said quietly. Okay. Text me later? Always. Victoria smiled, small and tentative, but real. Then she got into her car, loaded the wheelchair, and drove away. Nathan stood in the driveway for a long time after she left, feeling like something fundamental had shifted. That night, after Khloe was asleep, Nathan called Victoria. Hey, she said, I was wondering if you'd call. Did you doubt me? A little? Victoria's voice was lighter now. Today was good. Yeah, it was. Khloe really loves you. You know that, right? Nathan smiled. I know. She talks about her mom sometimes. When you're not in the room, she asked me if I thought her mom would like me. Nathan's throat tightened. What did you say? I said I thought her mom sounded like she was smart and kind and had great taste. So yeah, probably. Victoria paused. Was that okay? That was perfect. They talked until Nathan's eyes started to close. His phone pressed to his ear, Victoria's voice grounding him in a way he hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Victoria would come over on Saturday afternoons. Sometimes they'd go to the park. Sometimes they'd stay in, and Khloe would monopolize Victoria's attention with her endless questions and stories. Sometimes Nathan would cook dinner, and the three of them would eat together at the kitchen table like something close to a family. It wasn't perfect. Victoria would shut down sometimes, retreating behind her walls when things felt too intimate or real. Nathan would panic when he felt himself getting too close, the guilt of moving on from Sarah hitting him at random moments. But they kept showing up. One evening, Victoria stayed late. Khloe had fallen asleep on the couch during a movie, and Nathan carried her upstairs to bed. When he came back down, Victoria was still in the living room, looking at the photos on the mantel again. She really was beautiful, Victoria said softly. Your wife. Nathan sat down on the couch. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Victoria turned to face him. Does it bother you that I talk about her? No. Nathan shook his head. Most people avoid it, like mentioning her will break me, but she was part of my life. A huge part. Pretending she didn't exist doesn't help anyone. Victoria moved closer. Do you feel guilty about us? Nathan didn't answer right away. Sometimes. Not because I don't want this, but because moving forward feels like leaving her behind. That's not how it works, though. Victoria's voice was gentle. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It just means you're still living. I know. Nathan looked at her. Doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. They sat in silence for a while. The only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall. Can I tell you something? Victoria asked. Always. I'm scared. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm scared that one day you're going to wake up and realize this is too hard. That I'm too much work, and you'll leave like everyone else did. Nathan reached out and took her hand. I'm not leaving. You can't promise that. You're right. I can't. Nathan squeezed her hand. But I can promise I'll show up every day. Even when it's hard. Even when we fight or screw up or don't know what we're doing, I'll show up. Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Why? Because you make me feel alive again. Because Khloe adores you. Because when I'm with you, I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm actually living. As a tear slipped down Victoria's cheek. Nathan, I'm not done. Nathan's voice was steady. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Victoria laughed through her tears. You're such an idiot. You keep saying that because it's true. Victoria wiped her eyes. You should have run the first day, but you didn't. No, I didn't. Victoria leaned forward and Nathan met her halfway. The kiss was soft and tentative and tasted like salt from her tears. When they pulled apart, Victoria was smiling. This is really happening, she said. Yeah, Nathan smiled back. It is. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. Nathan brushed a strand of hair from her face. But we'll figure it out together, Sam. Victoria kissed him again, harder this time. And for the first time in 5 years, Nathan let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, he deserved this. That night, after Victoria left, Nathan sat on the edge of his bed and looked at the photo of Sarah on his nightstand. She was smiling in the picture, frozen in a moment of happiness that felt like a lifetime ago. I hope this is okay, he whispered to the empty room. I think you'd like her. She's stubborn and smart, and she doesn't take any of my crap, kind of like you. The photo didn't answer, but Nathan felt something ease in his chest. Not forgiveness, exactly. More like permission. He turned off the light and went to sleep, dreaming of a future that finally felt possible. The following weeks blurred together in a way Nathan hadn't experienced since before Sarah got sick. Time moved differently when you were actually present for it. When you weren't just marking days off a calendar and hoping to survive until tomorrow. Victoria started calling during Khloe's bedtime routine. She'd stay on the line while Nathan read stories, listening to his daughter's sleepy questions and the sound of pages turning. Afterward, they'd talk until one of them fell asleep, phones still pressed to their ears. It was domestic in a way that should have felt terrifying. Instead, it felt right. One Thursday evening, Victoria showed up at Nathan's house unannounced. He opened the door to find her sitting in her wheelchair on the porch, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Hey, Nathan said. I wasn't expecting you. I know, I should have called. Victoria fidgeted with her keys. Can I come in? Of course. Nathan stepped aside, and Victoria rolled into the living room. Khloe was at a friend's house for a play date, so the house was quiet, too quiet suddenly. Is everything okay? Nathan asked. Victoria didn't answer right away. She just sat there, staring at her hands, her jaw tight. Victoria? I need to tell you something. Her voice was strained, and I need you to let me get through it without interrupting. Nathan's stomach dropped. Okay, let's... Victoria took a deep breath. I had a panic attack yesterday, at work, in the middle of a board meeting. It was bad, full breakdown, couldn't breathe, thought I was dying. She laughed bitterly. My assistant had to clear the room. Nathan wanted to reach for her, but he forced himself to stay still, to listen. It's happened before, Victoria continued. After the accident, during the early days, therapy helped, medication helped, but it never really went away. And lately it's been getting worse. She finally looked up at him. I think it's because of you. Nathan's chest tightened. Because of me? Not in a bad way. Not exactly. Victoria's hands gripped the armrests. You make me feel things I haven't felt in years. Hope. Happiness. The possibility of a future. And that terrifies me, because every time I've hoped for something, it's been taken away. Victoria, I'm not done. Her voice cracked. I'm broken, Nathan. Not because of the wheelchair, because of everything else. The trauma, the abandonment, the years of building walls so high, I forgot what it felt like to let someone in. And now you're here, and Khloe's here, and I'm so scared I'm going to ruin this. Nathan crossed the room and knelt in front of her wheelchair. Hey, look at me. Victoria met his eyes, and Nathan could see the fear there, raw and unguarded. You're not broken, he said quietly. You're hurt. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. Nathan took her hands. Broken means you can't be fixed. Hurt means you're healing. And healing is messy and slow, and sometimes it feels like you're going backward. But you're not broken. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. How do you know? Because I've been where you are. After Sarah died, I thought I was broken too. Like some essential part of me had died with her. But I wasn't broken. I was just grieving. Learning how to exist in a world that didn't include her anymore. Nathan squeezed her hands. And you're not broken either. You're just scared. I'm so scared, Victoria whispered. I know. Nathan's voice was gentle. But you don't have to be scared alone anymore. Victoria broke down then, crying in a way Nathan had never seen. Not the quiet, controlled tears she'd shed before. This was full-body sobbing, years of pain and fear pouring out all at once. Nathan pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried, not saying anything, just being there. When the tears finally subsided, Victoria pulled back, wiping her face. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I just had a breakdown in your living room. What? So? Nathan smiled. I've had about 100 of them in the last 5 years. You're in good company. Victoria laughed shakily. You're not supposed to be this understanding. Why not? Because it makes it harder to push you away. Good. Nathan brushed a tear from her cheek. Stop trying to push me away. Victoria looked at him for a long moment. I don't know how to do that. Then let me help. How? What? By staying. Even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. Nathan's voice was steady. I'm not going anywhere, Victoria. Not because of a panic attack. Not because you're scared. Not for any reason. Victoria's lower lip trembled. Promise? Promise. She kissed him then, desperately, like she was trying to convince herself he was real. Nathan kissed her back, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. When they finally pulled apart, Victoria rested her forehead against his. I think I'm falling in love with you, she whispered. Nathan's heart stopped. Yeah? Yeah. Victoria's voice was shaky. And it's terrifying. I know. Nathan smiled. But I'm falling too. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet of Nathan's living room, both of them scared and hopeful and finally brave enough to try. 2 months into whatever they were calling this, Victoria's older brother showed up. Nathan had heard about Marcus Hale in passing, always in tones that suggested he was equal parts protective and terrifying. Victoria had mentioned him exactly 3 times, each time with the kind of careful neutrality people use when talking about something complicated. So when a sleek black Tesla pulled up in front of Nathan's house on a Saturday morning and a man in an expensive suit climbed out, Nathan knew exactly who it was before Victoria even texted. The message came 30 seconds later. I'm so sorry. He wasn't supposed to come yet. Please don't run. Nathan looked out the window. Marcus Hale was standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, staring at the house like he was conducting a threat assessment. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with the kind of controlled intensity that made Nathan think of corporate lawyers and MMA fighters. Khloe appeared at Nathan's elbow, peering out the window. Who's that? Victoria's brother. He looks mad. Yeah, he kind of does. The doorbell rang. Nathan took a breath and opened the door. Marcus Hale looked him up and down with the cold precision of someone who'd made a career out of reading people. Nathan Reed? His voice was deep, clipped. That's me. Marcus Hale, Victoria's brother. I figured. Marcus didn't smile. We need to talk. Nathan glanced back at Khloe, who was watching with wide eyes. Can you give me a minute, kiddo? Go play upstairs. Khloe hesitated, then nodded and ran upstairs. Nathan heard her bedroom door close. He turned back to Marcus. You want to come in, or are we doing this on the porch? Inside's fine. Nathan stepped aside. Marcus walked into the living room with the same assessing gaze, taking in the worn furniture, the scattered toys, the photos on the mantel. He didn't sit down, just stood there, hands in his pockets, radiating disapproval. So, Marcus said, you're the guy. I'm a guy. Don't know if I'm the guy. Victoria talks about you. A lot. Marcus's expression didn't change. That's new. Nathan wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Okay. Look, I'm going to be direct. I don't know you. I don't know what your intentions are. But Victoria's been through enough. If you're just killing time or looking for some kind of charity case to make yourself feel better about your dead wife, I need to know now. The words hit Nathan like a punch to the gut. His hands clenched into fists at his sides, and it took everything he had to keep his voice level. That's what you think this is? I don't know what this is. That's why I'm here. Marcus's gaze was unflinching. Victoria doesn't let people in. Ever. The fact that she's let you in means something, and if you hurt her, we're going to have a problem. Nathan took a step forward. I'm not going to hurt her. You can't promise that. No, I can't. Nathan's jaw was tight. But I can promise I'm not here because I feel sorry for her. I'm here because she's smart and funny and she makes me feel like I'm not just going through the motions anymore. And yeah, she's in a wheelchair. So what? That doesn't make her a charity case. It makes her Victoria. Marcus studied him for a long moment. You really believe that? Yeah, I do. Most guys don't. Then most guys are idiots. Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Not warmth, exactly, but a slight thaw. She had a panic attack this week, Marcus said quietly. Did she tell you? Yeah, she told me. And you're still here. Of course I'm still here. Marcus looked away, his jaw working. The last guy left when things got hard. Told her he couldn't handle watching her suffer. Broke her engagement 2 weeks before the wedding and never looked back. Nathan's chest tightened. Victoria had told him that story, but hearing it from her brother made it worse somehow. More real. I'm not him, Nathan said. I hope not. Marcus finally met his eyes again. Because if you are, I will make your life very difficult. Noted. They stood there in tense silence. Then Marcus sighed and ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly tired. She deserves to be happy, he said quietly, after everything she's been through. She deserves that. I know. Do you? Marcus's voice was sharp again. Because it's not just about showing up. It's about staying, even when she pushes you away. Even when she's scared and angry and convinced you're going to leave. Can you do that? Nathan thought about Sarah, about the months of watching her fade, of sitting beside her hospital bed, of holding her hand while she slipped away, about the years after, when he'd been so numb he could barely feel anything at all. Yeah, he said quietly. I can do that. Marcus studied him for another long moment. Then he nodded, just once. Okay. Okay? Don't make me regret this. Marcus moved toward the door, then stopped. And for the record, if you ever make her cry, I'll know, and we'll have a very different conversation. Understood. Marcus left without another word. Marcus. Nathan stood in the living room, his heart pounding, hands still shaking with residual anger and adrenaline. His phone buzzed. How bad was it? Victoria's text was followed immediately by another. He promised he'd wait. I'm going to kill him. Nathan typed back. It was fine. He's protective. I get it. He threatened you, didn't he? A little. I'm so sorry. Nathan called her instead of texting back. Victoria answered on the first ring. I'm going to murder him, she said immediately. Slowly, with witnesses. It's fine, Victoria. It's not fine. He had no right to show up at your house and... She broke off, breathing hard. What did he say? He wanted to make sure I wasn't using you as some kind of grief project. Victoria was quiet for a moment. And what did you tell him? The truth. That I'm here because I want to be. Because you make me feel alive again. Nathan paused. And that I'm not going anywhere. Victoria's voice was thick when she spoke again. You really told him that? Yeah. What did he say? He said if I make you cry, he'll kill me. Victoria laughed, shaky and wet. That sounds like Marcus. He loves you. I can't be mad about that. You should be. He was way out of line. Victoria. Nathan's voice was gentle. If someone had hurt Khloe the way your ex hurt you, I'd probably do the same thing. Maybe worse. Victoria didn't respond right away. Nathan could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, could picture her sitting somewhere with her jaw tight and her eyes bright. I don't deserve you, she said finally. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? We just keep showing up, keep trying, keep being honest. Nathan sat down on the couch. That's all we can do. That sounds exhausting. It is. Nathan smiled, but it's worth it. Victoria exhaled slowly. I'm coming over. Now? Yeah, I need to see you. Make sure Marcus didn't scare you off. I'm still here. I need to see it. 30 minutes later, Victoria pulled up in her modified van. Nathan met her at the door, and the second she rolled inside, she grabbed his hand and held it like she was afraid he might disappear. You're still here, she said quietly. I told you I would be. I know, but... Victoria's voice broke. People say a lot of things they don't mean. Nathan crouched down in front of her wheelchair. I mean it. All of it. Victoria kissed him then, hard and desperate, like she was trying to prove something to herself. Nathan kissed her back, his hands cupping her face until they were both breathless. Stay for dinner, Nathan said when they pulled apart. Okay. I'm making spaghetti, Khloe's favorite. I like spaghetti. Nathan smiled. Good. They spent the afternoon in the kind of comfortable domesticity that should have felt strange but didn't. Nathan cooked while Victoria sat at the kitchen table, talking to Khloe about her latest school project, a diorama about the Jurassic period that involved an alarming amount of glitter. So the T-Rex goes here, Khloe explained, pointing to a badly painted shoebox. And the Triceratops goes here, and then they fight. Do they have to fight? Victoria asked. They're dinosaurs, that's what they do. Fair point. Nathan watched them from the stove, something warm settling in his chest. This was what he'd been afraid of, letting someone new into their lives, letting Khloe get attached. But watching Victoria now, patiently listening to his daughter's endless chatter, he couldn't find it in himself to regret it. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Khloe dominated the conversation, asking Victoria 100 questions about computers and wheelchairs, and whether she'd ever met a real dinosaur. Victoria answered each one seriously, never talking down to her, treating Khloe like a person instead of just a kid. After dinner, they watched a movie. Khloe fell asleep halfway through, curled up between Nathan and Victoria on the couch. Nathan carried her upstairs and tucked her in, then came back down to find Victoria still on the couch, looking at the photos on the mantel again. She looks at you the way Khloe looks at you, Victoria said quietly. Nathan knew she was talking about Sarah. Yeah. You were happy. We were. Nathan sat down beside her. But that was a different life, a different version of me. Victoria turned to face him. Do you ever wish you could go back? Nathan thought about it, really thought about it. A few months ago, the answer would have been yes without hesitation. But now, sitting here with Victoria, he wasn't so sure. No, he said finally. I loved Sarah. I'll always love her, but I can't go back. And I don't think I want to. Why not? Because going back would mean never meeting you. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Nathan, I mean it. Nathan took her hand. You and Khloe, it's not a replacement for what I had. It's something new, something I didn't know I needed. Victoria leaned her forehead against his. I'm scared I'm going to screw this up. You won't. You don't know that. You're right, I don't. Nathan pulled back to look at her. But even if you do, we'll figure it out. That's what people do when they care about each other. They screw up, and they apologize, and they keep trying. Victoria laughed softly. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just tired of being scared. Me too. Shocked. They stayed on the couch for another hour, talking about nothing and everything. About Victoria's upcoming product launch, about Khloe's dinosaur obsession, about the fact that neither of them had any idea what they were doing, but were doing it anyway. When Victoria finally left, Nathan walked her to her van. The night was cool, stars visible, despite the city lights. Thank you, Victoria said as she loaded her wheelchair. For what? For not running. Marcus can be, intense. He's protective, I get it. Nathan leaned against the van, and for the record, I'm glad he cares that much. You deserve that. Victoria's smile was soft. You're too good to be true. You know that? I'm really not. You are. Victoria reached out and touched his face, and I'm starting to believe it. Nathan kissed her goodnight, and then she was gone. Taillights disappearing down the street. He went back inside and found Emma sitting on his couch, apparently having let herself in through the back door. Jesus, Em, you scared the hell out of me. Emma grinned. Sorry, I wanted to check in, see how things went with Marcus. How did you? Victoria texted me. She was freaking out. Nathan sat down heavily. He showed up to make sure I wasn't going to hurt her. And I told him I wasn't. We had a very tense conversation. He threatened me. Then he left. Emma studied him. You okay? Yeah. Nathan rubbed his face. I get why he did it. If someone had hurt Khloe the way Victoria's ex hurt her, I'd probably do the same thing. You're in love with her, aren't you? Nathan opened his mouth to deny it, then stopped. Because it was true. Somewhere between that first coffee date and tonight, he'd fallen in love with Victoria Hale. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I am. Emma's smile was genuine. Good, she's good for you. I know. So what now? Nathan shook his head. I have no idea. We're just taking it one day at a time. That's all you can do. Emma left shortly after, and Nathan went to bed feeling lighter than he had in months. He checked his phone and found a text from Victoria. I love you. Nathan's heart stopped. He stared at the words for a long moment, then typed back, I love you too. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. This is terrifying. Nathan smiled. Yeah, it is. But worth it? Definitely worth it. The next few weeks were a strange mix of ordinary and extraordinary. Victoria started coming over more often, sometimes with work, sometimes just to exist in the same space as Nathan and Khloe. They fell into routines that felt natural: Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday afternoon walks in the park, weeknight dinners when Victoria's schedule allowed. It wasn't perfect. Victoria still shut down sometimes, retreating behind her walls when things felt too real. Nathan still had moments where the guilt of moving forward hit him like a freight train. But they kept showing up, kept trying. One evening, Victoria was working on her laptop at Nathan's kitchen table while he helped Khloe with her math homework. It was mundane and domestic and exactly the kind of thing Nathan had thought he'd never have again. Daddy, I don't get this one, Khloe said, pointing to a word problem about trains. Nathan looked at it. Okay, so if the train leaves at 2 o'clock and travels 60 miles per hour, why does the train need to go that fast? Khloe interrupted. That's really fast. Victoria laughed from across the room. She's got a point. Nathan shot her a look. You're not helping. I'm just saying the problem doesn't specify why the train needs to go 60 miles per hour. Maybe it's late. Maybe there's an emergency. Context matters. Khloe giggled. Victoria's on my side. Great. Now you're both ganging up on me. They worked through the homework together, Victoria chiming in occasionally with commentary that made Khloe laugh and made Nathan realize how much he loved this. The 3 of them together, the easy rhythm of it, the way Victoria fit into their lives like she'd always been there. Later that night, after Khloe was asleep and Victoria was gathering her things to leave, Nathan caught her hand. Stay, he said. Victoria looked at him. Nathan, not like that. Nathan paused, trying to find the words. I don't want you to leave yet. Victoria's expression softened. Okay. They ended up on the couch again. Victoria curled against Nathan's side, his arm around her shoulders. They didn't talk, just sat there in the quiet, both of them exhausted and content. This is nice, Victoria said softly. Yeah, it is. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Nathan tightened his arm around her. What do you mean? I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for you to realize this is too much work, for Khloe to decide she doesn't like me, for... Victoria's voice cracked. For you to leave. I'm not leaving. You keep saying that, because it's true. Nathan turned to face her. Victoria, look at me. She did, her eyes vulnerable in a way that made Nathan's chest ache. I'm not leaving, he said again. Not because things are easy, not because you're easy. I'm staying because I love you. Because you make me feel like I'm actually living again instead of just existing. Because Khloe adores you and you're patient with her even when she asks a million questions. Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself again. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Nathan, I'm not done. Nathan cupped her face. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But we're in this together. Whatever happens, we face it together, okay? Victoria nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. Okay. Nathan kissed her, tasting salt in relief and something that felt like hope. When they pulled apart, Victoria was smiling through her tears. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. Otui? They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet of Nathan's living room, both of them finally starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was real. The following Saturday, Nathan woke up to find Victoria already in his kitchen, making coffee. She had a key now. He'd given it to her 2 weeks ago, half expecting her to panic and push him away. Instead, she just pocketed it and kissed him. Morning, Victoria said, handing him a cup. Khloe's still asleep. How long have you been here? About 20 minutes. I brought bagels. Victoria gestured to a bag on the counter. I was going to surprise you. Nathan smiled. Mission accomplished. They ate breakfast together, trading sections of the newspaper Victoria had also brought, falling into the kind of comfortable silence couples developed after years together. It was strange how quickly they'd gotten here, how natural it felt to have Victoria in his space, in his life. Khloe appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Victoria, you're here. I brought bagels. Khloe's face lit up. With cream cheese? With cream cheese. Khloe climbed into Victoria's lap without hesitation, something she'd started doing a few weeks ago. Victoria had frozen the first time, unsure what to do. Now she just wrapped her arms around Khloe like it was the most natural thing in the world. Nathan watched them together and felt something shift in his chest. This was his family now. Different from what he'd had with Sarah, but no less real, no less important. Can we go to the park today? Khloe asked through a mouthful of bagel. Victoria looked at Nathan. What do you think? I think that sounds great. Sure. They spent the afternoon at the park, Khloe running wild while Nathan and Victoria sat on a bench near the playground. The day was perfect. Warm sun, cool breeze, the sound of kids laughing in the distance. I could get used to this, Victoria said quietly. Nathan took her hand. Me too. And that's when everything changed. A woman walking past their bench stopped abruptly, staring at Victoria. She was middle-aged, well-dressed, and wearing an expression Nathan had seen before, that particular mix of pity and admiration people reserve for wheelchair users. Excuse me, the woman said. I just wanted to say, you two are so inspiring. Nathan felt Victoria stiffen beside him. Inspiring? Victoria's voice was carefully neutral. Yes. It's just so wonderful to see someone willing to... The woman gestured vaguely at Victoria's wheelchair. You know, to take care of her like that. Not many men would be so selfless. Nathan's blood went cold. Victoria's hand tightened on his, her nails digging into his palm. Her face had gone blank, that armor sliding back into place. Have a nice day, Victoria said flatly. The woman smiled and walked away, completely oblivious to the damage she'd just done. Nathan turned to Victoria. Hey, don't. Victoria pulled her hand away. Just don't. Victoria, I need to go. What? No, wait. But Victoria was already moving, wheeling herself toward the parking lot with quick, angry movements. Nathan followed, his heart pounding. Victoria, stop, please. She stopped at her van, but she wouldn't look at him. I should have known. Known what? That this is what people see. You and me. The selfless man and the broken woman he's taking care of out of the goodness of his heart. Victoria's voice was shaking. I'm not a charity case, Nathan. I know that. I've never thought that. But everyone else does. Victoria finally looked at him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. That woman. She looked at us and saw you staying with me out of obligation, out of pity. And the worst part? She's probably not the only one. Nathan's chest felt like it was caving in. I don't care what other people think, but I do. Victoria's voice broke. I care because I've spent years fighting against that narrative, against the idea that I'm someone who needs to be taken care of, someone who's lucky that anyone would want to be with me. And now what? Now I'm wondering if that woman was right. Nathan felt like he'd been punched. You can't be serious. Why are you with me, Nathan? Victoria's hands gripped the wheelchair arms. Really? Why? Because I love you. Or because I make you feel needed? Because taking care of me makes you feel like you're doing something good? That's not... Nathan stopped, trying to control his anger. You know that's not true. Do I? Victoria's voice was cold now. You lost your wife. You spent 5 years taking care of Khloe alone. And then I show up, broken and angry and in a wheelchair, and suddenly you have someone else to take care of, someone else to save. I'm not trying to save you. Aren't you? No, I'm trying to love you. There's a difference. Victoria shook her head. I can't do this. Can't do what? This. Us. I can't be someone's project, someone's good deed. Nathan's throat was tight. That's not what you are. Then what am I? You're the woman I love. The woman who makes me feel alive again. The woman Khloe adores and who's been patient with both of us even when we're a mess. Nathan's voice was shaking now. You're not broken. You're not a charity case. You're Victoria, and I love you, not despite anything, just because you're you. Victoria's eyes were streaming now. I want to believe you. Then believe me. I can't. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. I've heard this before. From my ex. From other people. They all said they loved me. They all said the wheelchair didn't matter. And then they left. I'm not them. How do I know that? Nathan didn't have an answer. Because the truth was, she didn't know. She was taking a leap of faith. And faith was hard when everyone you'd ever trusted had let you down. I don't know what else to say, Nathan said quietly. I can tell you I love you. I can show up every day. I can promise I'm not going anywhere. But if you don't believe me, none of that matters. Victoria closed her eyes. I need time. Time for what? To think. To figure out if I can do this. Nathan felt like the ground was falling away beneath him. Victoria, please. Victoria opened her eyes, and the pain in them was unbearable. I just need space. To think. Nathan wanted to argue, wanted to fight for this, for them. But he could see the walls going up again, brick by brick, and he knew pushing would only make it worse. Okay, he said quietly, if that's what you need. Victoria nodded, not meeting his eyes. She got into her van, loaded the wheelchair, and drove away without looking back. Nathan stood in the parking lot, watching her taillights disappear, feeling like he'd just lost something he couldn't afford to lose again. Khloe found him a few minutes later, her face worried. Daddy, where did Victoria go? Nathan crouched down, forcing a smile he didn't feel. She had to leave, kiddo. But we were having fun. I know. Is she coming back? Nathan's throat was so tight he could barely speak. I don't know. Khloe's face crumpled. Did I do something wrong? No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Nathan pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. None of this is your fault. But as he held his daughter in that parking lot, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that he was losing something vital. Something he'd only just started to believe he could have again. And he had no idea how to fix it. Nathan drove home with Khloe silent in the back seat, staring out the window. The silence was worse than questions. At least questions he could answer, even if the answers were bad. When they got inside, Khloe went straight to her room without being asked. Nathan heard the door close softly, and that quiet click felt like a condemnation. He stood in the kitchen, staring at the coffee cup still on the table from that morning. Victoria's cup, half full. The bagels she'd brought, still in the bag. Evidence of a life that had felt real just a few hours ago. His phone sat heavy in his pocket. He pulled it out 3 times in the first hour, typed messages he didn't send, then deleted them. What was he supposed to say? That the woman in the park was wrong? Victoria already knew that. That he loved her? She knew that too. Knowing something and believing it were completely different things. By evening, Khloe still hadn't come out of her room. Nathan knocked softly on her door. Kiddo, you okay? I'm fine. She wasn't fine. Nathan could hear it in her voice. Can I come in? A pause. Then, okay. Khloe was sitting on her bed, surrounded by her dinosaur collection. She'd lined them all up in rows, organizing them by size. It was something she did when she was upset, putting things in order when everything else felt chaotic. Nathan sat down beside her. Want to talk about it? Is Victoria mad at us? No, she's not mad at you at all. Then why did she leave? Nathan tried to find words that would make sense to an 8-year-old. Sometimes adults get scared, not of scary things like monsters or the dark, scared of getting hurt. And when Victoria gets scared, she pulls away. She needs time to think. Khloe picked up a plastic velociraptor, turning it over in her hands. Does that mean she's not coming back?
I don't know, baby. But you love her, and she loves you. That's what you said. I do love her, and I think she loves me too. Eats.
Then why can't you just fix it? Nathan's chest hurt. Because some things can't be fixed by just wanting them to be fixed. Sometimes people need space. Sometimes they need time.
Khloe was quiet for a long moment. Then she said very softly, I miss Mommy. Nathan pulled her into his lap, holding her tight. I know. And now Victoria's gone too. Hey, Victoria's not gone. She's just taking a break to think. That's what you said about Mommy at first, that she just needed to rest. Khloe's voice was muffled against his shoulder. And then she didn't come back. Nathan felt like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed. He'd worked so hard to help Khloe understand Sarah's death, to give her language for the grief. But he'd never fully realized how that loss had shaped her understanding of absence. Victoria's not sick, Nathan said carefully. She's just scared. But that doesn't mean she won't come back. Are you sure? No. Nathan kissed the top of her head. But I'm hopeful. Khloe cried then, the kind of crying she hadn't done since she was much younger, and Nathan just held her and let her. When she finally fell asleep, he carried her to bed and pulled the covers up around her. His phone buzzed as he was leaving her room. Emma. Just talked to Victoria. What the hell happened? Nathan called her instead of texting back. Emma answered immediately. She told me what happened, Emma said without preamble. Some woman at the park. Yeah, and now she's convinced you're only with her out of pity. That's the short version, Emma swore. That's such bullshit. I know. So what are you going to do? Nathan sank onto the couch. What can I do? She asked for space. I gave it to her. Nathan, you can't just give up. I'm not giving up. I'm respecting what she needs. What she needs is for you to fight for her. Emma's voice was insistent. She's testing you, pushing you away to see if you'll leave like everyone else did. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Love's not fair. Emma paused. Look, I get that you want to respect her boundaries. But sometimes loving someone means pushing back when they're self-destructing. Nathan rubbed his face. I don't know what to say to her that I haven't already said. Then show her. Stop talking and show her. How? I don't know. You're the one dating her. Figure it out. Emma's voice softened. But figure it out fast. Because right now she's sitting in her apartment convincing herself she was right to push you away. And the longer you let her sit with that, the harder it's going to be to change her mind. After Emma hung up, Nathan sat in the dark living room thinking. The house felt empty without Victoria's presence, even though she'd only been a regular fixture for a few months. Funny how quickly someone could become essential. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Victoria. I'm sorry. Nathan stared at the message for a long time before responding. For what? For running, for panicking, for not believing you. You don't have to apologize for being scared. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I want to believe you. I just don't know how. Nathan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then he typed, Can I come over? The dots disappeared for a full minute. Nathan's heart was pounding. Then, okay. Nathan checked on Khloe one more time, still sleeping, then texted Emma to ask if she could come sit with her. Emma arrived 15 minutes later, already in her pajamas. Go, she said, pushing him toward the door. I've got her. If she wakes up, I'll tell her you went to get Victoria back. Now go. Nathan drove across town to Victoria's apartment building. It was one of those modern high-rises downtown, all glass and steel and accessibility features that probably cost more than Nathan made in a year. He'd only been here twice before. Victoria had always preferred coming to his place, being around Khloe, avoiding the sterile perfection of her own space. He texted when he arrived, and Victoria buzzed him up. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. When he finally reached her floor, Victoria was waiting in the hallway. Her apartment door opened behind her. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were red. Her hair was down instead of in its usual ponytail, and she was wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt Nathan had never seen before. Hi,
she said quietly. Hi. They stood there in the hallway, neither of them moving. You came, Victoria said finally. You asked me to. I thought you might not. After I ran. She stopped, shaking her head. I wouldn't have blamed you. Nathan took a step closer. Can we talk inside? Victoria nodded and wheeled backward into her apartment. Nathan followed, closing the door behind him. The apartment was exactly what he'd expected, and nothing like he'd imagined. Modern furniture, expensive art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city. But it was also messy in a way Victoria never let herself be in public. Paper scattered across the dining table, dishes in the sink, a blanket tangled on the couch like she'd been sleeping there. Sorry about the mess, Victoria said, not sounding sorry at all. I don't care about the mess. Victoria positioned herself near the windows, looking out at the city instead of at Nathan. I've been thinking about what you said. In the parking lot. Okay. You said I was taking a leap of faith, that I had to believe you weren't going to leave. Victoria's voice was tight. And you're right. That's exactly what I have to do. Just trust you. Believe you when you say you love me and you're not going anywhere. Yeah. But here's the thing. Victoria finally turned to face him. Everyone I've ever trusted has let me down. My fiancé left. My parents couldn't look at me the same way after the accident. Friends disappeared because they didn't know how to handle it. So trusting you? That's not a small thing. That's me handing you the ability to destroy me. Nathan's throat was tight. I know. Do you? Victoria's hands gripped the armrests. Because from where I'm sitting, you're asking me to risk everything while you risk nothing. You already lost your wife. You already survived the worst thing that could happen. What do you have to lose? The question hit Nathan like a physical blow. What do I have to lose? His voice came out rough. I have Khloe. I have the life I've built. I have the walls I spent 5 years constructing to keep myself safe. And you're asking me to tear all of them down. That's not the same, isn't it? Nathan moved closer. Victoria, I'm terrified. Every single day. I'm terrified that I'm not good enough for you, that I'm going to screw this up, that one day you're going to wake up and realize you could do so much better than a single dad who's still grieving his dead wife. Victoria's eyes widened. Nathan, I'm not done. Nathan's hands were shaking. You think you're the only one risking something? I'm risking Khloe. If this doesn't work out, she loses someone else she loves. She's already lost her mother. She's already been through more pain than any kid should have to deal with. And I brought you into her life knowing that if you leave, it'll break her heart all over again. I would never, I know you wouldn't mean to, but that woman in the park? She got in your head. And you ran. You pushed me away because you were scared. And Khloe noticed. She asked me tonight if you were mad at her. If she did something wrong. Nathan's voice cracked. She told me she misses her mom. And she's scared you're not coming back either. Victoria's face crumpled. I didn't think... I know. You were hurting. You were scared. I get it. Nathan took a breath. But you asked what I have to lose. I have my daughter's happiness, her trust, her belief that people she loves won't keep leaving her. That's what I'm risking. Every single day. Victoria was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you because you need to understand that this is hard for me too. That I'm just as scared as you are. That I'm also taking a leap of faith every time I tell you I love you. I don't know how to do this, Victoria whispered. Neither do I. Nathan crouched down in front of her wheelchair. But I'm willing to figure it out, together, if you are. Victoria reached out and touched his face, her hand shaking. What that woman said was wrong, completely wrong. But what if she wasn't? What if everyone looks at us and sees exactly what she saw? The selfless man taking care of the broken woman. Nathan caught her hand, holding it against his cheek. Then they're idiots. And I don't care what they think. I care. I know. Nathan's voice was gentle. And I can't change that. I can't control what other people think or say. All I can do is show you, every day, that I'm here because I want to be. Because I love you. Not because I pity you or feel obligated or want to be someone's hero, just because you're you. Victoria closed her eyes. How? How what? How do I learn to believe that? Nathan thought about it. One day at a time, one moment at a time, you let me show up. You let me prove it. And if I panic again, if I push you away, then you push me away. And I'll push back. And we'll figure it out. Nathan squeezed her hand. That's what people do when they love each other. They don't give up just because things get hard. Victoria opened her eyes. They were still wet, but there was something different in them now. Not quite hope, but maybe the beginning of it. I love you, she said quietly. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I made Khloe think she did something wrong. I'm sorry I... Nathan kissed her, cutting off the apology. Victoria kissed him back, desperately, like she was trying to prove something to both of them. When they pulled apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. Stop apologizing. I feel like I should... Victoria, look at me. She did. We're both going to mess up. A lot. We're both scared and damaged, and we have no idea what we're doing. But that doesn't mean we quit. Nathan's voice was firm. It just means we have to be honest with each other. When you're scared, tell me. When I'm panicking, I'll tell you. We talk instead of running. Deal? Victoria nodded slowly. Deal. Good. Nathan stood up. Now get your stuff. You're coming home with me. Victoria blinked. What? Now? Yes, now. Khloe thinks you're mad at her. You need to tell her you're not. Nathan, it's almost 11. She'll still be awake, trust me. She never sleeps when she's upset. Nathan held out his hand. Come on. Victoria stared at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. They drove back to Nathan's house in Victoria's van, Nathan following behind in his truck. When they arrived, the living room lights were still on. Emma opened the door before they could knock. About time, she said, looking at Victoria. Khloe's in her room, still awake, still worried. Victoria swallowed hard. Is she okay? She will be. Go talk to her. Nathan led Victoria upstairs. Khloe's door was cracked open, light spilling into the hallway. Nathan knocked softly. Kiddo? You still awake? Yeah. Nathan pushed the door open. Khloe was sitting up in bed, her dinosaurs still arranged in neat rows beside her. Her eyes widened when she saw Victoria. Victoria? Victoria wheeled into the room, and Nathan saw her hand shaking on the wheels. Hey, Khloe, you came back. I did. Victoria moved closer to the bed. I'm sorry I left like that, at the park. That wasn't fair to you. Khloe's lower lip trembled. Did I do something wrong, Shaiti? No. Oh no, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. Victoria reached out, and Khloe immediately grabbed her hand. I got scared. Something someone said made me feel bad, and I ran away. But that's not your fault. You're perfect. Really? Really? Victoria squeezed her hand. I should have stayed. I should have explained. I'm sorry I didn't. Khloe was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Daddy said you just needed time to think. He was right. And I did. I thought about a lot of things. Victoria glanced at Nathan, then back at Khloe. But mostly I thought about how much I missed you and your dad and being here. Do you want to stay? Khloe's voice was hopeful. Tonight? Victoria looked at Nathan again. He nodded. Yeah, Victoria said softly. I'd like that. Yeah. Khloe threw her arms around Victoria's neck, nearly knocking her backward. Victoria caught her, holding on tight, and Nathan saw her close her eyes against tears. I'm sorry, Victoria whispered. It's okay, Khloe said. You're here now. Nathan stayed in the doorway watching them, feeling something settle in his chest. This was his family, broken and scared and figuring it out as they went. But his family, nonetheless. After Khloe finally fell asleep, with Victoria promising she'd still be there in the morning, Nathan and Victoria went back downstairs. Emma had left at some point, leaving a note on the counter that just said, Don't screw this up. Your sister's subtle, Victoria said, reading over Nathan's shoulder. Always has been. They ended up on the couch again, Victoria curled against Nathan's side. The house was quiet around them, peaceful in a way it hadn't been since that afternoon at the park. I talked to my therapist today, Victoria said after a while. Yeah? I called her right after I left the park. Emergency session. Victoria's voice was quiet. I told her what happened, what that woman said, how I panicked. What did she say? That I'm still carrying trauma from my ex leaving, that I'm waiting for everyone to leave because that's what I learned to expect. Victoria paused. She said, I'm punishing you for someone else's mistakes. You're not punishing me, aren't I? Victoria turned to look at him. I pushed you away because I was scared. That's not fair to you. Victoria, we all have baggage. We all have scars. That doesn't mean you're punishing me. It just means you're human. Victoria's eyes were bright. How are you so understanding? Because I get it. After Sarah died, I pushed everyone away. My friends, my family, everyone. I convinced myself I was fine alone, that I didn't need anyone, that needing people just meant they could hurt you. Nathan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. So yeah, I get it. And I'm not going anywhere. What if I panic again? Then you panic again, and we deal with it, together. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I want to believe you. So believe me. I'm trying. That's all I'm asking. They stayed on the couch until Victoria's eyes started to close. Nathan carried her to his bedroom, something he'd never done before, and helped her transfer into bed. Then he climbed in beside her and she curled into his side like she belonged there. Thank you, Victoria whispered in the dark. For what? For not giving up on me. Nathan kissed the top of her head. Never going to happen. Victoria fell asleep in his arms, and Nathan lay awake for a while, listening to her breathe, feeling the weight of her against his side. This was real. They were real. And whatever happened next, they'd face it together. The next morning, Nathan woke up to the smell of burning pancakes and Khloe's laughter. He found Victoria in the kitchen, wheelchair positioned in front of the stove, attempting to flip what looked like charcoal circles while Khloe supervised. They're not supposed to be that color, Khloe said seriously. I'm aware. Victoria scraped the latest attempt into the trash. Your dad makes it look so easy. Nathan leaned in the doorway, smiling. Need help? Victoria turned, her face lighting up when she saw him. Please, I'm murdering breakfast. I can see that. Nathan took over pancake duty while Victoria and Khloe set the table. It was domestic and chaotic and perfect in a way that made Nathan's chest ache. After breakfast, while Khloe was getting dressed, Victoria caught Nathan's hand. I need to tell you something, she said. Nathan's stomach tightened. Okay. I talked to my therapist about more than just yesterday. I talked about us, about my fears, about what happens next. Victoria took a breath, and she asked me what I wanted. Not what I was afraid of, just what I wanted. And I want this. You and me and Khloe, I want Saturday morning pancakes and park visits and someone to call when I have a bad day. I want to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and just live. Victoria's voice was shaking. But I need you to be patient with me because I'm going to mess up. I'm going to panic. I'm going to push you away when things get scary. I know. And you're okay with that? Nathan pulled her closer. Victoria, I'm going to mess up too. I'm going to pull away when the grief hits. I'm going to panic when things feel too good because good things always ended badly before. I'm going to wake up some mornings and feel guilty for being happy. He cupped her face. We're both broken. We're both scared. But we're doing this together. That's what matters. Victoria kissed him then, soft and slow and full of promise. I love you, she said when they pulled apart. I love you too. Even when I'm a disaster? Especially when you're a disaster. Victoria laughed, and the sound was lighter than Nathan had heard in days. The following week was better. Not perfect. Nothing was perfect. But better. Victoria came over most evenings after work. They fell back into their routines, but with a new awareness of how fragile things could be, how important it was to communicate instead of assuming. One evening, Nathan was renovating the downstairs bathroom. He'd been putting it off for months, but lately he'd been thinking about accessibility. The doorway was too narrow for Victoria's wheelchair. The sink was too high. There was no grab bar by the toilet. He didn't tell Victoria what he was doing, he just started working on it. Evenings after Khloe went to bed, weekends when Victoria wasn't around. Emma caught him one Saturday afternoon, sweating through a shirt and covered in drywall dust. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Widening the doorway." Emma looked at the bathroom, then at Nathan. "For Victoria." "Yeah." "Did she ask you to?" "No." Nathan set down his drill. "But I want her to be comfortable here. I want this to feel like her home too." Emma's expression softened. "You're really doing this?" "Doing what?" "Building a life with her, Nathan looked at the half-finished renovation, at the plans he'd drawn up, at the vision he had for a house that accommodated everyone who lived in it. "Yeah, I am." "Good." Emma squeezed his shoulder. "She's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her." 2 weeks later, Nathan finished the bathroom. He texted Victoria that evening. "Come over. I want to show you something." She arrived 30 minutes later, Khloe running out to greet her before she'd even parked. "Victoria, Daddy made something for you." Victoria looked at Nathan, eyebrows raised. "You made something for me? Come see." Nathan led her to the bathroom. Victoria stopped in the doorway, taking in the widened entrance, the lowered sink, the grab bars, the roll-in shower he'd installed where the old tub had been. "Nathan?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "What did you do?" "I made it accessible. For you." Nathan rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly nervous. "I know you never complained, but I noticed you struggled with the narrow door, and the sink was too high. And I wanted you to be comfortable here. I wanted this to feel like—" Victoria kissed him, cutting off the explanation. When she pulled back, there were tears on her cheeks. "Like home," she finished. "Yeah." "You did this for me." "Of course I did." Victoria looked at the bathroom again, then at Nathan. "No one's ever done something like this for me." "Then they were idiots." Victoria laughed through her tears. "You can't keep saying that." "I can if it's true." Nathan wiped her tears with his thumb. "I love you. I want you here. This just makes it official." Victoria kissed him again, and Khloe cheered from the hallway. That night, after Khloe was asleep and Victoria was getting ready to leave, she stopped at the door. "I don't want to go," she said quietly. Nathan's heart stopped. "Then don't." "Nathan, I'm serious. Stay. Move in. Stop driving back and forth. Stop pretending you don't belong here." Nathan moved closer. "You already have a key. Your stuff is all over the house. Khloe asks about you every day. Just stay." Victoria stared at him. "You want me to move in?" "Yes." "That's a big step." "I know." Nathan took her hands. "But I'm ready if you are." Victoria looked around the house, at the photos on the mantle, at Khloe's toys scattered on the floor, at the home Nathan had built for himself and his daughter. A home that suddenly felt like it had room for one more. "Okay," she said softly. Nathan blinked. "Okay?" "Okay, I'll move in." Nathan kissed her then, lifting her slightly out of her wheelchair in his enthusiasm. Victoria laughed against his mouth, and the sound was pure joy. "You're sure?" Nathan asked when they pulled apart. "I'm terrified." Victoria's smile was soft. "But I'm sure." "Good." Nathan set her back down carefully. "Because I already cleared space in the closet." Victoria laughed. "You were that confident?" "Not confident, hopeful." "I like hopeful." "Me too." 2 weeks later, Victoria officially moved in. It wasn't smooth. Nothing ever was. There were arguments about where things should go, about boundaries and space, and how to navigate living together. But they worked through it, talking instead of running, being honest instead of hiding. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, they built something neither of them had thought they'd ever have again. A family, a home, a future. 3 months after Victoria moved in, Nathan woke up to the sound of her crying in the bathroom. It was 4 a.m. The house was dark and silent except for the muffled sounds coming from behind the closed door. Nathan sat up, listening, trying to decide if he should knock or give her space. He knocked. Victoria, you okay? The crying stopped abruptly. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. Nathan could hear it in her voice. Can I come in? A long pause. Then, yeah. Nathan opened the door. Victoria was sitting in front of the mirror, still in her pajamas, her face wet with tears. On the counter beside her was her phone, screen still lit up with what looked like an email. What happened? Nathan asked quietly. Victoria wiped her face roughly. Nothing. It's stupid. It's not stupid if it made you cry. Victoria picked up her phone, stared at it, then set it back down. I got an email from a journalist. She wants to write a profile piece about me for some magazine. The usual thing. Tech CEO overcomes disability, very inspirational, blah, blah, blah. Nathan waited. And normally I just decline these. I hate those pieces. They always make me sound like some kind of motivation poster instead of an actual person. Victoria's voice was shaking, but this one mentioned you. She'd heard I was in a relationship and wanted to include it in the story. She used the phrase, despite her circumstances. Nathan's jaw tightened. She said that? Yeah, despite my circumstances, I'd found someone willing to look past my disability and give me a chance at love. Victoria laughed bitterly. Like you're doing me some kind of favor. Like I should be grateful anyone would want me. That's... Nathan stopped, too angry to find words. I know. Victoria wiped her eyes again. And I know I should just ignore it. Delete the email. Move on. But it got in my head because that's what people think, isn't it? That you're with me despite the wheelchair. That you're being generous or selfless or whatever other bullshit they tell themselves. Nathan crouched down in front of her. You know that's not true. Do I? Victoria's voice cracked. Because sometimes I still wonder. When I'm having a bad day. When my body doesn't work the way I want it to. When we have to plan everything around accessibility. I wonder if you ever regret this. If you ever wish you'd walked away that first day. Never. Nathan took her hands. Not once. How can you be so sure? Because I know what my life was like before you. I was existing, not living, going through the motions, surviving for Khloe but not actually present for anything else. Nathan squeezed her hands. You didn't just give me a chance at love. You gave me my life back. Victoria closed her eyes. That woman in the park. I still think about her sometimes. What she said, I know. I hate that I let her get to me. I hate that I still care what strangers think. You're human. That's allowed. Nathan stood up and pulled her into his arms. But you need to hear this. I'm not with you despite anything. I'm with you because of everything. The good, the bad, the wheelchair, the panic attacks, all of it. That's who you are. And I love who you are. Victoria buried her face in his shoulder, her arms tight around him. Say it again. I love you. Not that. The other part. Nathan pulled back to look at her. I'm not with you despite anything. I'm with you because of everything. Victoria kissed him then, hard and desperate, like she was trying to believe it by sheer force of will. Nathan kissed her back, holding her close, wishing he could make her see herself the way he saw her. When they pulled apart, Victoria rested her forehead against his. I declined the interview. Good. Told her if she couldn't write about me without making my relationship sound like charity work, she could write about someone else. Nathan smiled. That's my girl. Your girl who's a mess. My girl who's brave enough to keep trying even when it's hard. Victoria's laugh was watery. You're too good at this. At what? Knowing exactly what to say. I've had practice. Nathan kissed her forehead. Come back to bed. They went back to bed, Victoria curled against Nathan's side, both of them awake but quiet. Nathan could feel her breathing slowly, even out, could feel the tension leave her body as she finally relaxed. Thank you, she whispered in the dark. For what? For always staying. Nathan held her tighter. Where else would I go? The next morning, Khloe found them still in bed at 7:30, which was late for their household. She climbed onto the bed between them, full of energy despite the early hour. Are you guys being lazy? She asked accusingly. Victoria laughed. Maybe a little. Can we have pancakes? Again? Nathan groaned. We had pancakes yesterday.
but I really like pancakes. She's got you there, Victoria said. Nathan sighed dramatically. Fine, pancakes, but you're helping. Khloe cheered and scrambled off the bed. Victoria caught Nathan's hand before he could follow. Hey, she said quietly. Yeah? Last night, when I was crying, you didn't try to fix it. You just listened. That's what you needed. I know, but most people don't get that. They try to solve everything, make it better. You just stayed. Victoria's eyes were soft. Thank you for that. Nathan leaned down and kissed her. Always. Oh. They spent the morning making pancakes and watching Khloe create increasingly elaborate dinosaur scenarios on the living room floor. It was ordinary and domestic and exactly what Nathan had never thought he'd have again. Around noon, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and frowned. It's Marcus. You should answer it. Victoria rolled her eyes but accepted the call. What do you want? Nathan could hear Marcus's voice on the other end, but couldn't make out the words. Victoria's expression shifted from annoyed to surprised to something Nathan couldn't read. Are you serious? Victoria said. Marcus, that's... She paused, listening. Okay. Yeah, we'll be there. Text me the details. She hung up and stared at her phone. What was that about? Nathan asked. Marcus is getting married 3 months from now. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Victoria looked up at Nathan. He wants you there, both of you and Khloe. Nathan blinked. He wants me at his wedding? Apparently you passed whatever test he was giving you. He said, and I quote, anyone who can put up with Victoria's crap deserves to be part of this family. Nathan laughed. That sounds like Marcus. He also said, if you hurt me, the invitation is revoked and he'll kill you. So there's that. Noted. Nathan sat down beside her. How do you feel about it? Victoria was quiet for a moment. Good. Scared. Both. She turned to face him. It's real, you know? Us being part of each other's families. It's not just you and me anymore. It's everyone. Is that a bad thing? Wait. No, it's just big. Victoria took his hand. What if they don't like me? Your family, I mean. Your parents. Your extended family. They'll love you. You can't know that. I can, because I know them, and I know you. Nathan squeezed her hand. And even if they didn't, which they will, it wouldn't matter. You're it for me, you and Khloe. That's my family now. Victoria's eyes were bright again. You can't just say things like that. Why not? Because it makes me want to cry. Again. Nathan pulled her close. Then cry. I've got you. Victoria didn't cry. Instead, she laughed and kissed him and told Khloe they were going to a wedding, which sent Khloe into a spiral of questions about dresses and flowers and whether there would be cake. The months leading up to Marcus's wedding were busy. Victoria's company launched a new product that required long hours and constant problem solving. Nathan picked up extra shifts at work to help cover the cost of formal clothes for the wedding. Khloe started 4th grade and joined the school science club, which meant weekly meetings and projects that took over the kitchen table. But they made it work. They carved out time for each other, date nights, family movie nights, quiet mornings before the chaos started. They fought sometimes, about stupid things like whose turn it was to do dishes or whether Khloe should be allowed to stay up late on weekends. But they always talked it through, always apologized when they were wrong, always showed up. One evening, about a month before the wedding, Nathan found Victoria sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of papers spread out in front of her. What's all this? He asked. Victoria looked up. Legal documents. I'm updating my will. Nathan's stomach dropped. Why? Because I have people to think about now. Victoria gestured at the papers. Before, everything went to Marcus if something happened to me, but now... She paused. Now I want to make sure you and Khloe are taken care of. Nathan sat down heavily. Victoria, I know it's morbid, but I've been thinking about it. About what would happen if something happened to me. And I want to make sure you're protected, legally, financially, all of it. I don't want your money. I know, but I want you to have it anyway. You and Khloe. Victoria's voice was firm. You gave me a home,
a family, a life I didn't think I could have. Let me do this. Nathan's throat was tight. You don't have to. I want to. Victoria reached across the table and took his hand. Please, let me do this. Nathan looked at the papers, at the careful way Victoria had organized everything, at the evidence of how thoroughly she'd thought this through. It wasn't just about money. It was about commitment, about building a future together, about acknowledging that they were a family now, in every sense that mattered. Okay, he said quietly. Victoria's smile was soft. Thank you. They spent the next hour going through the documents together. Victoria explained every section, every decision, every provision she'd made. It was practical and unromantic, and somehow one of the most intimate conversations they'd ever had. When they were done, Victoria closed the folder and looked at Nathan. There's something else. Okay. I've been thinking about Khloe, about what role I play in her life. I'm not her mother. I would never try to replace Sarah, but I am. Victoria paused, searching for words. I'm something. I'm here. I'm part of her life, and I want to make that official. Nathan's heart was pounding. What do you mean? I want to look into legal guardianship, or adoption, if that's what makes sense. I want to make sure that if something happens to you, Khloe has someone, that she's protected, that she knows someone will always be there for her. Victoria's voice was shaking now. Would that be okay? Nathan couldn't speak. He just pulled Victoria into his arms and held her while his chest felt like it might crack open. I'll take that as a yes, Victoria said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. Yes, Nathan managed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Victoria pulled back, wiping her eyes. I should probably ask Khloe first. Probably. They asked Khloe the next morning. Nathan had expected questions, maybe confusion about what it meant. Instead, Khloe just looked at Victoria and said, Does this mean you're staying forever? Yeah, Victoria said softly. It does. Good. Khloe went back to her cereal like it was settled. Then she looked up again. Can I call you Mom? Victoria's breath caught. Nathan saw her hands grip the table, saw her fighting to hold it together. Victoria's voice broke. You can call me whatever you want. What if I want to call you Mom? Then you can call me Mom. Khloe grinned. Okay, Mom. Victoria broke down then, crying in a way Nathan had only seen a handful of times. Khloe scrambled out of her chair and climbed into Victoria's lap, hugging her tight. Did I say something wrong? Khloe asked, worried. No, baby. You said something perfect. Victoria held her close, tears streaming down her face. So perfect. But Nathan watched them together, his daughter and the woman he loved, and felt something settle in his chest. This was his family. Not perfect, not easy, but real and chosen and worth every hard moment it had taken to get here. Marcus's wedding arrived on a perfect September afternoon. The ceremony was small and intimate, held in a garden venue outside Denver. Victoria wore a deep blue dress that made her eyes look impossibly green. Khloe wore a flower girl dress she'd picked out herself, complete with dinosaur shoes she'd insisted were appropriate for weddings. Nathan wore a suit Emma had helped him pick out and tried not to think about the last wedding he'd attended, his own, a lifetime ago. During the ceremony, Nathan sat beside Victoria and Khloe, watching Marcus pledge his life to someone he loved. It was beautiful and emotional, and when the officiant talked about commitment and showing up even when things got hard, Nathan felt Victoria reach for his hand. He squeezed it, and she squeezed back, and Khloe leaned against both of them with the unselfconscious ease of a child who felt completely secure. At the reception, Marcus found them at their table. Thank you for coming, he said to Nathan. Thanks for inviting us. Marcus glanced at Victoria, then back at Nathan. I was wrong about you. At first. I know. I thought you'd leave, like the others. But you didn't. Marcus's expression was serious. You stayed, even when she pushed you away, even when things got hard. That takes... He paused. That takes love. Real love. Nathan didn't know what to say to that. Take care of her, Marcus said, and let her take care of you. That's how this works. I will. Marcus nodded once, then moved on to greet other guests. Victoria had watched the whole exchange from across the table. What did he say? she asked. That I should let you take care of me. Smart man, my brother. Oh, when he's not threatening to kill me, yeah. Victoria laughed. He only threatens people he likes. That's comforting. Oops. They danced later, Nathan pushing Victoria's wheelchair around the dance floor while Khloe spun in circles nearby. It wasn't traditional. It probably looked strange to anyone watching, but neither of them cared. This is nice, Victoria said, looking up at Nathan. Yeah, it is. Think we'll have one of these someday? Nathan's heart stopped. One of what? A wedding. Nathan looked down at her, at the woman who'd brought him back to life, who'd given him a reason to feel again, who'd become a mother to his daughter, and a partner in every sense that mattered. Yeah, he said quietly. I think we will. Victoria's smile was brilliant. Good, because I already have ideas about the venue. Nathan laughed. Of course you do. And the guest list, and the flowers, and Nathan kissed her, cutting off the list. Victoria kissed him back, still smiling, and somewhere nearby Khloe made a gagging noise that made them both laugh. 6 months later, Nathan proposed. He didn't make it elaborate or perfect. He just waited until one ordinary Saturday morning when Victoria was making coffee and Khloe was still asleep upstairs and the house was quiet and full of the life they'd built together. Marry me, he said. Victoria turned around, coffee cup in her hand. What? Marry me. Be my wife. Let's make this official. Nathan moved closer. I don't have a ring yet. I wanted to ask first. Make sure you wanted this before I made it a big production. Victoria set down the coffee cup with shaking hands. Nathan, I love you. Khloe loves you. You're already part of this family in every way that matters. I just want to make it legal. Make it permanent. Make sure you know you're stuck with us. Nathan took her hands. So what do you say? Will you marry me? Victoria's eyes were streaming. You're serious. Dead serious. You want to marry me. More than anything. Victoria laughed through her tears. You're insane. Is that a yes? Yes. Yes, you idiot. Of course it's a yes. Nathan kissed her then, lifting her slightly out of her wheelchair in his joy. Victoria laughed against his mouth, her arms tight around his neck, both of them crying and laughing and holding on to each other like they'd never let go. Khloe appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. What's happening? I asked Victoria to marry me, Nathan said. Khloe's eyes went wide. She said yes? She said yes. Khloe screamed and ran over, throwing her arms around both of them. We're going to be a real family. We already are a real family, Victoria said, pulling Khloe into her lap. This just makes it official. Machisa. They spent the rest of the morning planning impossible things, venues and dates and guest lists. Khloe insisted on being involved in every decision, from the flowers to the cake to whether they should have a dinosaur theme. Absolutely not, Victoria said. But why not? Because I love you, but I'm not walking down the aisle to a T-Rex. Rolling down the aisle, Khloe corrected. Victoria blinked. Then she laughed so hard she cried. Rolling down the aisle, right. Nathan watched them bicker about wedding details and felt something close to complete. This was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not easy, but real and earned and worth every painful step it had taken to get here. They got married 4 months later in the same garden where Marcus had gotten married. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Emma cried through the whole thing. Marcus gave a speech about how wrong he'd been about Nathan and how right Victoria had been to give him a chance. Khloe was the flower girl and took her job so seriously she narrated the entire walk down the aisle. When it was time for vows, Nathan spoke first. I came to that coffee shop expecting nothing. Maybe an hour of awkward conversation, maybe an escape route. What I got instead was you, challenging me, seeing through my walls, refusing to let me stay numb. Nathan's voice was shaking. You gave me my life back. You gave Khloe a mother. You gave us both a reason to believe that good things were still possible. So I promise you this, I will show up every day, even when it's hard, even when we fight, even when life throws everything it has at us. I will stay, because you're worth staying for, Saska. Victoria was crying by the time he finished. She wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. I spent years convinced I was broken, that the accident had taken away my chance at a normal life, that anyone who stayed with me was doing charity work. Victoria's voice was thick with tears. You proved me wrong. Not by saying the right things or making big gestures, but by showing up. By treating me like a person instead of an inspiration. By loving me not despite my wheelchair, but just because I'm me. She squeezed his hands. So I promise you this. I will trust you. Even when I'm scared. Even when old wounds try to convince me you'll leave. I will believe that you mean it when you say you love me. Because you've earned that trust. And I'm done punishing you for other people's mistakes. They exchanged rings. They kissed. The officiant pronounced them married, and Khloe cheered so loud half the guests laughed. At the reception, Nathan and Victoria had their first dance. Nathan pushed her wheelchair around the floor while their daughter and families and friends watched, and Nathan realized something profound. Love wasn't about saving someone. It wasn't about fixing them or completing them or any of the other romantic nonsense people said. Love was about showing up, about choosing someone every day, even when it was hard, about building a life together one messy, imperfect day at a time. Victoria had taught him that. Not through grand gestures, but through 1,000 small moments. Through panic attacks she'd let him witness. Through fights they'd worked through instead of running from. Through mornings where she made terrible pancakes and evenings where she fell asleep on his shoulder while they watched TV. That was love. The real kind. The kind that lasted. Later that night, after the reception had ended and Khloe was asleep at Emma's house and they were finally alone in their hotel room, Victoria caught Nathan's hand. Thank you, she said. For what? For staying. That first day at the coffee shop, when I tried to push you away, you stayed. Nathan pulled her close. Where else would I have gone? Away. Like everyone else. I'm not everyone else. No. Victoria's smile was soft. You're not. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet of their hotel room, both of them thinking about how far they'd come. From that first coffee date to this moment. From two broken people convinced they'd never heal to two people who'd chosen to heal together. It hadn't been easy. It had been messy and scary and full of moments where either of them could have walked away. But they hadn't. They'd stayed. They'd fought for each other. They'd built something real. 2 years later, Nathan stood in the kitchen making breakfast while Victoria worked at the table, and Khloe, now 10, complained about her math homework. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, nothing special, nothing remarkable. But Nathan looked around at his life, at his wife, at his daughter, at the home they'd built together, and felt overwhelmingly grateful. Because this was what he'd needed. Not perfection, not some fairy tale ending where everything was easy. Just this, a life, a family, a reason to wake up every morning and actually want to be present for whatever came next. Victoria caught him staring and raised an eyebrow. What? Nothing, just thinking. About what? Nathan smiled. About how lucky I am. Victoria's expression softened. We both are. Yeah, we are. Khloe looked up from her homework. Are you guys being mushy again? Maybe a little, Nathan admitted. Gross. But Khloe was grinning. Nathan went back to breakfast. Victoria went back to work. Khloe went back to her homework. The morning continued, ordinary and imperfect and exactly what Nathan had been missing for so long. Because here's what Nathan had learned. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't stop because you're grieving or scared or convinced you're broken beyond repair. It just keeps moving. And you have two choices. You can hide from it or you can show up for it. Nathan had spent 5 years hiding. 5 years convincing himself that surviving was enough. That being there for Khloe was all he needed. Victoria had taught him different. She'd shown him that surviving wasn't living. That being present wasn't the same as being alive. That sometimes the bravest thing you could do was let someone in, even when every instinct told you to run. They'd both been broken when they met, both carrying wounds that hadn't healed right, both convinced they were fine alone. But they'd been wrong. Because healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in community, in relationship, in the messy, imperfect process of letting someone see all your damage and choosing to stay anyway. That's what love was. Not a grand gesture or a perfect moment. Just two people showing up for each other, day after day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Nathan had walked into that coffee shop 5 years ago expecting nothing. Maybe an hour of polite conversation. Maybe an escape route. What he'd gotten instead was everything. A second chance. A new family. A life worth living. And as he stood in his kitchen on that ordinary Tuesday morning, making pancakes while his wife worked and his daughter complained about math, Nathan realized something important. He was happy. Genuinely, completely happy. Not because everything was perfect, but because he'd finally stopped waiting for perfect and started appreciating what was real. Victoria wheeled over to him, touching his arm. "You okay?" Nathan looked at her, at the woman who'd challenged him, seen him, loved him, and smiled. "Yeah," he said, "I really am." And for the first time in years, he meant it.